can he be that guy? Is that in there? You're kind of at the point where it's like, maybe this isn't who he is. What is he? What kind of offense do we have to play with Kyler? And is that the best offense that, we need for this team or the way this team is built?
In spite of the 5-game losing skid, one of the things we've talked about earlier since you joined the show was the struggles offensively. And we've seen a big improvement offensively. We'll table the quarterback controversy conversation for just a minute and just talk about how this offense has looked with Jacoby Brissett in the shotgun, under center, run and play action. I mean, we're looking at 25.5 points per game. We're seeing explosives down the field, things we didn't see weeks 1 through 5. First and foremost, what have you seen from this offense with Jacoby Brissett in there that's given them a chance in the last 2 games?
Well, I mean, first, let's just make the point that, there's a few backups in this league that can be starters in the NFL. And I'm a believer that Jacoby Brissett is one of those guys. I mean, he's obviously been in that role before, but he's one of those guys. So I think that's the first thing that we have to recognize here is just that, you guys are fortunate to have a backup that's a really good football player and a really good quarterback and understands how to play the position. And so when you plug him in, he's not just, a guy that, I guess I'll use the term like keep the seat warm. Hopefully he can play well for a game or two and give us something why Kyler's not there. I mean, this is a guy that that could be starting in this league, at a few places that are struggling at the quarterback spot. And so he's come in and he's given them that kind of leadership. It wasn't this huge drop off. We're seeing the same kind of competitive stuff. And, we're seeing some of the stuff that Jacoby is built on. He's a big, strong arm quarterback that is built on pushing the ball down the field and making some of those big time throws. So, that's who he is and who he's been throughout his career. And those things just help out, the offense. The chunk throws help out the offense to make it a little bit easier. So you're not having to go the long distance all the time. I thought, that they've done some decent things in the run game during these 2 weeks as well to help supplement what they're doing in the pass game. And, we've talked about that before, that I thought this team really was built on running the football and kind of the power run game when they came into the season before some of the injuries, and they had gotten away from that a little bit. I think some of that has come back as well. And so, I think that's where you have to start is that, quality guy. And, maybe this offense, fits or at least what you're trying to do inside the pocket and scheme wise fits Jacoby Brissett pretty well. And we've been able to see that in these first couple of weeks.
We look at Monday Night Football a week from Monday, Kurt. The Cardinals go to Dallas in a stadium Kyler Murray has never lost in. And the plan right now appears to be, if Kyler is healthy, they're going to play Kyler Murray again. What do you think Kyler Murray needs to show over these last 10 games? Because we've talked about it, right? Clock's ticking, not only for Kyler, but this regime. They have to start stockpiling wins because nothing's for certain in this league. Is there a possibility that Kyler could watch Jacoby stand in the pocket, rip those throws downfield? I mean, they've just been so much more efficient in the pocket, standing and delivering throws beyond the sticks. So much of what Kyler Murray has done, whether he's been coached to this, whether it's a byproduct of the offense that he runs, everything seems like so horizontal at the line of scrimmage. Is there a possibility like this absence could be a good thing for Kyler to have a little bit of a reset?
I don't know if you've ever know the answer to that. I think we could look down at Carolina a couple years ago when Bryce Young was there, and all of a sudden, he wasn't playing well, and they benched him. And then he came back from that benching and was a completely different player. I mean, I don't really know what happened and how that change transpired with Bryce, but he's come back and he's been. He's gotten better and better and better and was more comfortable within their offense after that time off. I don't know if it was alleviating some of the pressure. I don't know if it was learning from Andy Dalton. I don't know what it was, but he did come back a different player. And so I think there are times that you can step back and learn from, your situation and learn from someone else or watch somebody else do it. And, and it can have an impact on you. I think the thing with Kyler is that, we've talked about this for a number of years, is that there's things that Kyler does really, really well. And he's very gifted at different aspects of playing the quarterback position. The one thing that he has struggled with throughout his career is the consistency of playing on schedule inside the pocket. And I shouldn't even say on schedule. I should just say inside the pocket with the ability to go from 1 to 2 to 3, going through his progressions. When number one's there, oftentimes that's not a problem for Kyler because, he can make all of those throws. But having the patience and the presence to stay in the pocket and allow the entire offense and the concepts to work for him, it has been something that he's struggled with throughout his career. And it's always been, I've felt, we've seen, MVP type play from Kyler. He's gone through half a season, as one of the MVP front runners. So we've seen really good play. But to me, the thing that always comes back and sets him and sets the offense back is when, when he's asked or forced into playing more conventional drop back, get through your reads, make those kind of decisions. That's been where he struggled throughout his career. And so, to answer your question, I don't know if he can step back and learn after a couple weeks and be more comfortable with that. Maybe he can, maybe, seeing something that he hadn't been able to see from his perspective. Or is it one of those things that we're continuing to wait to see? Can he be that guy? Is that in there? Because as you guys said, year 7, you're kind of at the point where it's like, maybe this isn't who he is. Maybe this isn't something that he can do and thrive in. And so, you end up asking the question, okay, what is he? What kind of offense do we have to play with Kyler? And is that the best offense that, we need for this team or the way this team is built? Kind of moving forward and in the long haul, and you wrestle with that. Like, can we play a style that's more Kyler-esque and be as successful as playing one that's more Jacoby-esque? And again, I'm not saying that this is a controversy and that you're not going to play Kyler because you've committed to Kyler, but it's just asking those questions and wrestling with those questions as you decide your direction moving forward.
Every stop along the way during your Hall of Fame career, you've been on either side of the fence of this, right? I mean, you've been the backup, you've been the starter, you've been benched. Kyler's the incumbent. Jacoby's the hot hand. Like, what does that do to a quarterback room? I mean, does it vary from place to place, quarterback to quarterback? What, in your experience, what's it been like?
Well, I mean, it's always tough. I mean, let's, not sugarcoat it. It doesn't matter where you're at and what the situation is. It's tough. Let's start with just being the starter and then getting injured and watching somebody else go in and play well and maybe even play or operate the offense better than it had been operating when you were in there. I mean, that's a tough spot and a very humbling spot to be in, especially when you believe you're a really good player and you believe you can play really good football. And you take that step back and you go, man, why didn't it look like that when I was in there? Why didn't we have that success? So I think that's the first part of it. The second part is, anytime you're in a situation and this happens and, because again, I was there when I got benched where the player in front of me is playing well and, you start going, okay, what does this mean? Like they are playing well. I can't deny that. I could still believe I'm the better quarterback, but, I have to be realistic with understanding, okay, we weren't playing well. And I'll use Mark Bolger as an example. He comes in and we're playing better than we were playing when I was in there. And, you hate to think, well, it was all about me. And, maybe other guys are playing better around. Like there's lots of things that go through your mind of wondering why and trying to put your finger on, what you need to do moving forward. Or, for me, it was, am I going to get another shot here? The situation in New York is a completely different one. And actually in Arizona are different situations because I'm the older vet guy and they drafted a young guy. And the quarterback position is always the most volatile where it's like, okay, we're not playing well. What's the first move we make? Oh, quarterback, where it's like, you're not changing your offensive line. You're not moving receivers. It's the quarterback. And so, when things happen, and they're going to make a move there, when you're in kind of my situation, and it's, it's not a fun place to be. And, I think, you guys know, obviously my story is that I could still play football. I didn't forget how to play football from my MVP years, to my good years in Arizona. But there's things that were going into a lot of those situations. In New York, we didn't play the style that I was, best at. And so I was muddling around and we were winning football games and we were doing some things and I was able to kind of lead, but there was no part of that allowed me to play the best version of football that I was capable of. And so a lot of people looked at that and were like, oh, he can't play anymore. His best years are behind him. And so all of those different things go through your mind. If you're in that position, if you're in Kyler's position, it's not a selfish thing, but it's a human thing. When the backup's playing well and the team's playing well with the backup in there, you're constantly going, okay, well, what does this mean? And what do I need to do different? And, is that guy better for this current situation? You never like to think that's the case because you always want to believe you're the best man for the job and you've always been. And now you just got to, help your team play better brand of football. But a lot of those emotions and the human emotions enter into those situations for sure.